I think bravery is showing up despite the outcome. People don't want to do that because they're obviously afraid. But if you live your life being afraid of the outcome, you'll never know if it could be better or worse. I'm not saying go into a cage with a tiger because you're most likely going to get hurt or die. I'm saying just look at any situation as just being able to be okay with the outcome regardless of it. Because that's where bravery comes from. It's to explore the unknown.
Welcome back to the Paws Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kara, and I'm really looking forward to today's episode with someone who has created something quite special, both online and on the ground. Our guest today is Israel Spruch, the founder of Crocoholics Conservation Centre, a place dedicated to misunderstood and often feared animals like the West African dwarf crocodile. Through his content and his conservation work, Israel has built a community grounded in honesty, self-reflection, and wild empathy. His story is raw, real, and deeply impactful, and I'm so glad that you're here to hear it. Before we get started, two quick things. First, a thank you to Stitch for the beautiful green scrubs that I'm wearing today. I usually stick to black, but these are a refreshing change, smart, durable, and incredibly comfortable. Our whole team wears Stitch because they hold up a busy hospital and honestly, they just feel really good. And second, if you're enjoying this podcast and want to keep it going, please hit that subscribe button, leave a review, or share the episode with someone you think would enjoy it. Your support really matters, and I appreciate every bit of it. In this episode, we're going to explore Israel's journey that fuels his commitment to reptiles like the West African dwarf crocodile, and how he balances his conservation work with vulnerability online, and how being neurodivergent has shaped the way he connects with animals and with people. It's a grounded and thought-provoking conversation, and I'm really glad you're here to hear it. Welcome to the Paws Effect Podcast. It's great to have you here. Thank you for taking time. Yeah. So I'd love to, obviously, we are going to have a discussion about all sorts of things, but I've done a little introduction so people understand a little bit more about you and about what we're going to talk about. But I'd love to understand, you obviously have set up a sanctuary. Is that what you refer to it as?
So no, it's not a sanctuary. It's I'm referring to it more as a wildlife education center. So I'm waiting for the permits to be open to public. So I'm waiting for my exhibition permit. So that the last thing that has to happen now is I have to have an inspection here. They have to go over the park and look, okay, all these safety measures are correct. All the animals are kept in well, blah, 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 sign it off, and then I can open to public. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. It's been a strenuous, difficult procedure based on life events that happened prior. So that's where I've reached a point now where I can finally almost taste being open. But no, I want it more as an education center. I think sanctuaries, in my own opinion, and this is a very blatant bad thing to say, but I think a lot of, you see, the problem with wildlife people is we have two types. We have the greenies and we have the keepers. And there is this constant fight between the two, who's right and who's wrong. And to be honest, they're both monetarily making money off animals. So one's through donations and the other one is through people coming and visiting. The one says, no, they just take the animals and we expect people to give them money for free. And then the other people are saying, oh, but no, they just show the animals and say it for education, but they're just exploiting the animals for money. So that's where that whole thing comes out. So I don't want to be categorized as a sanctuary in that sense because I know where I stand firmly on that. But however, I want to educate people and, in my opinion, give back in conservation value, which would be a conservation awareness.
I love that. I love it. So tell us what a normal. Let's start by describing your normal day. What time do you get up? What do you do? What are your responsibilities? What does a normal day look like for you?
Right. Well, for the last few months, I've been in a spiral in my head, so it's not been so consistent and good. But normally, what a day for me in the park would be is I wake up 6 o'clock. Make myself a coffee, and then I go say hello to all the animals, and then I open the cages into their main camps, and then they all spend the rest of their day enjoying that. And I'll make sure that everything's in order, that water is full, water's clean, poop's picked up, prep food for when it is feeding time. Once that food is prepped, take it to the animals, lure them back into the camps where they eat, and lock them up for the night. And that would be my day. So it's pretty much maintenance. Once the park is open, then we're going to have tours where I'm going to be educating public during that whole thing of happening. I'm also going to be educating people during tours on what these animals are about and why we should actually just save them. And for instance, the main reason I want to do this is to prove that crocodiles are worth saving, ironically, which I think people don't believe. I mean, it's nice to look at a puppy and think it's cute and cuddly, and then you look at a snake and you're like, oh, it has no emotions, blah, 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 it's cold-blooded, and you portray this whole unlovable effect to an animal that I believe is deserving of love. But now you look at a tiger, it's a predator, it's scary, but it's also cute and fluffy. So there's that's the perfect duality of a animal that is feared but also loved. And I think by educating people, if they like tigers, why can't you like a crocodile? And that has been my whole thing. And I firmly believe that you cannot touch a person's inner soul without exposing them to something that could change their life. So I think that people actually seeing a physical tiger in front of them is good. Now, touching a tiger, which I'm not allowing, but if, I get cub petting and that, it would be. But I think that touch, the physical touch of touching this animal, seeing the size of its paw in your hand, seeing its head, seeing its canines, you're either going to get a person who goes, oh, I could have seen that in National Geographic. Oh, that was a cool experience, whatever. You might get that little kid that goes, that is so cool. I'm going to spend my whole life studying that thing and hoping it never goes away.
That is really inspiring. And I agree. I mean, have you seen mine? I just want to show you my wildcat on my lap.
Bengal
This
mix.
is Xena. Yeah, she's a Bengal, straight.
Bengal,
she's just
okay.
quite
I have
small.
a Bengal too. Yeah.
Oh, do you? Lovely. And I've seen you've got the bigger versions, which is very cool. We'll talk about.
Yeah.
But let's stick on the thing that you brought up, which is the crocodiles, particularly you refer to the West. Let me get this right. The West African dwarf crocodile.
Yeah. So Osteolaemus tetraaspis.
Ooh. What is special about this breed, and why are you so passionate about? Why are they particularly difficult to kind of breed in particular, and why do you want to protect them?
It's a difficult thing to explain. So if you look at general crocodiles, so your Nile crocodile is known as super aggressive, super big. It's the most communal of the crocodiles. Then you look at the salty, it's known as the longest, largest, also super aggressive. And you look at the Cuban, agile, not that big, but unbearably aggressive. And then you look at the little West African dwarf crocodile, which has now been separated into 3 different species. Osteolaemus tetraaspis and Osteolaemus usborni, but there's another one I haven't actually gone and looked too much into. Now, the thing that's quite interesting about them is they have extreme aggression, just buried into them, like small man syndrome. So that makes them, to me, instantly an iconic species in its own right. They're super aggressive. And then you've got the fact that they compact into this small little crocodile that's actually not utilizable for any purpose besides bushmeat. And the bushmeat market is actually what has driven it, that and habitat destruction, has driven it to pretty much almost extinction in its wild environment. And you think about it and you think, why do we save the Nile crocodile? Well, obviously its leather is usable. So we farm them on mass scale to use the leather. And that's actually saved Nile crocodiles. And that same concept can't be applied to species whose leather is not usable or not nice or not desirable. So the only thing that's keeping Osteolaemus alive or in the ecosystem would be the pet trade, and then obviously the zoo trade, zoos wanting them and all of that. And what's actually causing their decline is bushmeat markets and habitat destruction. And I'm like, why can't we just take the two and put them together, which is we farm Nile crocodiles for their leather and for their meat. Why can't we do the same with Osteolaemus? Because obviously it'll take pressure off the wild population for the bushmeat market. And we'll be able to produce more of these, and then the wild population can at least recoup or recover. And the problem with that is because where they occur in West Africa is a very third world country. There's no, CITES doesn't apply there. Let's put it that way. So like they say it's under CITES 1 protection, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that people care? No, they don't. They want meat. They want food. They don't know when their next meal's coming. They see a crocodile, they're going to eat it. And no one can actually get a permit to mass produce these animals on such a scale that you could provide a cheap food source for the people, because they don't want to stop eating it.
I had no idea. So, I mean, you've obviously set up enclosures that take into account their needs, particularly being kept in captivity. Tell us a little bit more about that, because it can't be an inexpensive exercise.
No, it's actually quite expensive. And that is the problem with, I think, most reptile keepers in South Africa or worldwide, even with the needs of an osteolaemus. So when we say they're not a big, huge crocodile, they're not. And so people will go out and buy this animal thinking it's like this small now, it's going to stay like small and manageable. No, it's not. It is the second smallest crocodilian in the world, and it is the smallest crocodile in the world. That does not mean by any means it is a small animal. They still grow to 2 meters. Their head still gets this wide. They still have a force behind them, like a pit bull thrashing and blah, blah, blah. So that is still a big animal that requires a 50 to 50% water to land ratio. And now you want to keep that animal comfortably. You've got to also take into account that this animal naturally travels 2-3 kilometers at night in the banana patties in the Congo. So it actually requires space. Now you've got to look at the also factors. Osteolaemus, along with your mesostops, the slender snout, they're both known as a boreal type crocodiles. So they've been found above streams, but like 10 meters up in a tree. Right. And if you think about that, that's a crazy. So they like to climb as well. So then when you go into cage design for a dwarf crocodile, it starts becoming like, holy hell, how do you incorporate all these aspects into an enclosure that you can also control the temperature, the humidity, the environment. So you can control the environment to replicate its natural environment while giving it enough enrichment for the animal not to be crudely kept. And I think most people don't even consider that when buying a crocodile or a crocodilian. They don't consider that at all.
Hey there, pet parents. It's Dr. Kara, the Ultra Pet Vet here. Brachycephalic, meaning short-muzzled dogs, have uniquely shaped jaws that can make picking up and chewing normal kibble really difficult. That's why Ultra Pet has created a kibble specifically designed for easy pickup. It contains glucosamine, chondroitin, and green lip muscle extract to help support your dog's joints so that they stay mobile and active. The inclusion of beet pulp and prebiotics helps support a healthy gut by promoting the growth of beneficial bacteria in the digestive system. Omega-3 and 6 fatty acids promote a shiny coat and a healthy skin. Ultra Pet offers 100% money-back guarantee. Try Ultra Pet's premium recipe for short-muzzled dogs today. So let's talk about what enrichment means, because I think probably it's something that maybe a lot of people have heard but don't fully understand. What, you talk about obviously cage design and humidity and stuff, but what does enrichment probably mean to you for a reptile?
For a reptile, enrichment could be hiding places, things that it can explore and do its natural behaviors. So like for a dwarf crocodile, it would require a basking spot. So that would be enrichment. But now to make it more than just, it's warm here, cold there, whatever, you would have to separate your temperatures within your enclosure so the animal can thermoregulate itself while going through the enclosure. That counts as natural behavior. It's enrichment. It's encouraging it to exhibit its natural behavior. So now they climb. So putting a nice branch in or log in at an angle so it can climb up there, and putting a basking spot there, then that's where he'll like to climb. But I'm under the impression, or at least I do believe that, I think this is the problem that people have, is that animals get bored, even if we don't think they're bored. People say reptiles don't get bored, they don't have emotion or whatever. So it's also nice to change the enclosure a lot, add new things, take away things, so the animal at least doesn't feel like, I'm in a shitty trapped enclosure, And I think that's where it counts as enrichment.
And would that apply to people keeping small exotics like snakes and small lizards
I would
at home?
100% agree. I think everybody puts them on AstroTurf, a hide box, and a basking lamp or a heat pad. And that's how they stay. But I do believe that putting in new ornaments and new food items, leaflets, things like that, can encourage the animal to exhibit natural behavior, which will be stimulating to that animal in its head. Just don't overstimulate it.
Not over. not a new environment every day.
That will stress the animal out and it won't eat or settle in. It needs time. Think of a reptile as a little computer chip. We know what it wants, we know what it's going to do and everything. But now this little computer chip has also got somewhat needs. And if those needs are met, it just creates more and more programming in it. But it needs to exhibit it. It needs to do it because I honestly do believe that we're all sentient beings. We all have souls. And if you think about it on the words of empathy, how crap is it? I mean, people hate working in an office every day, and yet they do it, but the enrichment is the pay. So how do you enrich an animal? It's just trapped there. And that's why I think you have to do that. You have to make it interesting, but not too often that the animal becomes overstimulated and stressed. So for normal reptile, putting a hide in, but then changing the hide occasionally, changing the environment occasionally, adding new things.
So when it comes to feeding, how do you manage this? Particularly because this is something that is obviously ongoing. You can financially plan for the enclosure and some of the enrichment stuff and those kind of things, but the feeding and the financial aspect of it is ongoing. How important is it that we expose? Sorry, my wildcat's getting on my lap. That we actually have people who are involved and invested in conservation.
Funding is so difficult to say because that's the whole problem that I have. And that's why I've trained one specific dwarf crocodile, through a lot to become kind of like a mascot for me. Because I think that no one wants to fund something they don't like. And I think that's why I like to incorporate the thing that if you can touch it, see it, and understand it, then your eyes get open to it. And then maybe you just realize, maybe they're not so bad. Maybe I should give that conservation company or that people that are doing this more money to actually protect them or breed them or do something with them so that they don't disappear. And I think the problem is there's no attachment to most reptiles from the general public. There's no interest in them because, well, they're so different. So we can't relate on a human level.
And how do you balance your passion for what you're doing with sort of general public perception and the legal and logistical barriers that you faced?
So you just go with the flow with it, I suppose. Obviously, the country has specific permits, especially with transit of animals and stuff. And then there's keeping permits, especially in Limpopo where I am. I require permits to keep everything. So when they decline that permit and you get really heartsore and heartbroken, why do you decline the permit? You've got to understand that it's a barrier that you would have to cross to obviously get it. So if you jump through all the loops and do it, then you can do it. And that's how you know you got passion, I suppose, for it. But when it comes to logistics of it, and you balance it all, you just got to make sure you have enough funding. You got to make sure that you're doing everything correct. You got to make sure that you're walking the fine line that the government or that the society has pretty much given you to achieve what you want with it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your big cats, because this is how I first came across you. And I encourage all my listeners to really take a look at your Instagram account in particular, because they are magnificent. They are really beautiful. Yeah. And I'm not saying that the crocodiles are not, because I'm also a fan.
It's difficult for people
the reptile.
I know.
But I obviously, from a size perspective and the kind of interactions that people can visually see you with them, explain, because I can imagine, and I'm not setting you up here, but I can imagine you probably get a lot of criticism from your interaction with these wild animals. It's
I get it from both sides. I get it from the greenies and I get it from the other people keeping big cats, constantly telling me you're going to die and make us look bad. And then the greenies are like, animals shouldn't be in cages, it shouldn't be humanized. And I think that is the misconception that everybody creates, and on both ends of both sides that people do. So this is an interesting way to describe this is Tom Crutchfield is a reptile smuggler / environmentalist and blah, blah, blah. He's got a bad reputation and a good one at the same time. He said it the best in the US. He said, the fear of the keeper, once the fear of the keeper and kept dissipates, then a truly beautiful bond happens. And that's when both sides of the fear disappear, then obviously a bond is formed. And I think that's where the backlash will come in, because people still are consumed by the fear of themselves and the animal. And they will backlash me because obviously, Zigzag, my giant Bengal, the white one, he could kill me. But he hasn't, but he can. And that's scary to people in my industry, because if he does kill me, it looks bad, and it might impose more laws that you can't own these animals, keep these animals, blah, blah. And on the greenie front, they're like, see, the animal didn't like it in captivity, like killed him, And that's the story we have. So I think the biggest problem that we have is we don't understand that the animal chooses not to kill me, and I choose not to abuse the animal. And there we have a good bond.
Tell me a little bit more about this bond. Why is it that you really resonate with these big cats?
If I really think about it, it's an interesting, how do I even put this into okay, so I bought Zigzag, I got him, and everyone was like, oh, he's cute now and cuddly and blah, 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 blah. I didn't actually give too much hoots about tigers too much at the time. I wanted one, I bought it. I was stupid. I didn't even have the correct environment to keep this animal. I was promised a job somewhere, and that job fell through, actually, ironically. And so I had this animal now, and what the hell do I do with it? So I bottle raised him and looked after him, and it kind of made me aware that it was a very cool animal. Behind the Chinese paintings, and everyone's like, oh, tiger's the biggest cat in the world. Behind all the hype of them, you actually just got a giant domestic house cat. That's what I saw. And it will act exactly like a domestic house cat. Then people say, no, that's going to stop. Eventually, he's going to be, once they reach that age of 3 or 4, they turn into a solitary animal, unlike lions. So he's not going to want to do anything with you. And I was like, yeah, you think so? Like, I don't know. So I carried on interacting. And then obviously he hurt me quite bad a few times. I'm not going to dispute that. And he became really apologetic afterwards. Like, oh, I'm sorry I hurt you. And can we still be friends? And that's how we created a bond out of it. And it made me realize that in the toughest times where I felt most abandoned, it's like someone just gives me a white tiger. And they're like, that's going to get you through. And yeah, you just got to balance it and understand that this animal is not just going to kill me. It relies on me for everything. It's a needy little creature, but it's big and it's scary, but it's needy. It's like you now have responsibility to this animal. And I think that it woke me up. And so I decided, let me try to get a place to house this animal. And I went to different jobs. I dragged Zigzag around with me to all these places. And then they obviously weren't happy. And then I dragged them to the next place and then to the next place. And eventually we found sanctuary for ourselves to say, here, this property. And I think that's the whole thing is having the tiger, realizing that it eats 20 kgs of meat a day. It needs predator powder. It needs an enclosure big enough for it with the enrichment of it. And if you cannot provide that to that animal, you're doing it a disservice. And then I realized also in my head, but that means I need to make lots of money and have a farm and everything. And that became scary. So it gave me a sense of responsibility, like a child would even. And then I also researched this. That one random person told me that, they give Buddhist monks tigers to teach them the importance of responsibility. They give them a baby cub tiger. And I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense because I think a tiger is more needy than a human child. So I think that's how that whole thing develops. It just gives you responsibility and reason. But if you're not ready to accept that and can't do it, it'll blow you away, and you'll end up just leaving the animal, giving it back to the breeder or something like that, because you realize how much responsibility that animal requires.
Jeez. Thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. And I feel the same, obviously, in terms of, my son, and I know that you have spoken on your social media account and are quite openly neurodivergent. You've spoken about Asperger's, spoken about being different and the acceptance that animals teach us about acceptance. And I love that. And I feel the same in terms of the responsibility. My son is also neurodivergent, and the responsibility that he loves animals. So we have a similar sort of setup in the sense that he wanted some axolotls. We rehabilitated some axolotls, and they require daily feeding. They require their tank to remain under 18 degrees. They need to have their tank cleaned once a week. And that responsibility is lovely as it may sound when you first set it up, I'll do it. And it's now, I have been very clear about the fact that it is his responsibility, and it will continue to be his responsibility, because the growth that I have seen and the connection that I've seen as a result has been really worthwhile. It's wonderful. So, yeah, I think it's a great lesson, and I really appreciate you sharing that. So it's really important. So let's talk about the connection or the acceptance that animals have shown you, and why it's meant so much that you've wanted to share it with the world.
So I think as a child, I was digging in holes and looking for reptiles. From age, as soon as I could walk and talk, my hands were in holes looking for animals and stuff. And I was obsessed with dinosaurs, like super, super, super obsessed with them. And I told my mom I want a snake. And she was like, no, you, gross. I chop snakes' heads off. And I kept on begging her for a snake. And eventually for my 6th birthday, I got a snake. And then I looked at her, named her Car, and it was a corn snake. And I fell in love with the snake, but I also realized that it requires responsibility. So did my mother, and so did all of that. And it develops an interest in me. So from dinosaurs, I still had that interest. I've always had it to be in my life forever. But now from dinosaurs, it became a wanting to look after and understand reptiles and different ones. And obviously my collection of keeping these animals grew and grew and grew. But I think the main thing that I realized, with especially reptiles in general, and I think this is where people don't understand, no one understands them. They don't show emotion. So how can you understand them? Now you've got to read body language completely to understand what the animal wants or doesn't want. And then when you look at a mammal, it doesn't speak English. It doesn't speak a language you can actually physically speak yourself. So you kind of lost with this thing. It's like having your own little Asperger's child, a non-verbal autistic. And you start to learn to read it for what it needs. And for an Asperger's person, especially with the severity of what I have, which people don't actually acknowledge. They think I'm pretty normal. I'm very high masking. But I'm very, very autistic, like literal thinking, you say things, I'll take it literally at that moment. And I can mask like I'm not. And then I try and pretend but the fact of the matter is I have no idea what they mean. I miss the social cue completely. And I think that's why I found interest in animals, because I could naturally just detect through emotional intuition what the animal wants and doesn't want. And then you can kind of read it off that. So you don't need words to feel accepted. You don't need even a human to feel accepted if you've got an animal that accepts you, because it's the same as you. And I think being misunderstood is the language we all speak but don't want to admit.
That is so profound. I've got goosebumps. It's so true. And I mean, there's the missing the social cues. I think you probably find, there is full acceptance with animals, which, when you look at how judgmental us as humans are, is rare. It's rare to come across someone who accepts you for you. And I understand why you. So animals, you obviously have a phenomenal bond with them and you learn to read them. I want to go back to your feeling that reptiles are sentient beings and that you have an understanding, because I think even as the mother of a child with a snake, I understand it from a responsibility perspective, but I'm not really understanding the connection that's going on here. What is it about starting with that corn snake that really impacted you? Was it the handling? Was it the responsibility? Or was it a combination of all those factors?
This is going to sound really narcissistic in its own way, but it was the fact that I own something, an animal that I understand, no one else does, and it also scares other people. It's also known as unlovable by other people. And guess what? I know everything about this animal, and I love this animal, so I'm special now. So it is a way to feel special about myself, that I am now responsible. It's a sense of entitlement. I am responsible for its well-being. I am responsible for this. No one else would do that because it's kind of narcissistic in its own way. But it also just gives that autistic child, me, a sense of belonging. And for the mother, what's nice about it is my mother used to say all the time to me, she's like, I used to chop snakes' heads off. But when Israel was born, I started looking at them different. Showed me their colors, what their venoms can do. And they're quite interesting, she used to say. It happens over and over again, especially when I meet people and I start talking. Lots of people, it's a perfect example of why it's so special to autistic folks, because you also change other people's perspectives. And I think that is the thing that autistic people crave the most. They want to change something, want to feel accepted for their non-acceptance. And my fiance, she said it to me once. She hates spiders, she hates crocodiles or whatever. And she would doom spiders and kill them and everything. I was like, hey, look at that one. She lives in the US. And I was like, look at that one. Before you kill it, just look at it. And she looks at it. And she said, what? And I said, show me it, on the phone. She showed it and I see, okay, it's a black widow. But ironically, it's a black widow you'll only find in Florida, USA. It's the one with like the red stripes on it and blah, blah. And I explained that to her. And she said, why is it different? I'm like, well, because of the ecosystem and everything where it occurs. So it has to be different now. And she looked at it and she was like, I don't want to kill it now. And I was like, exactly. So you change the person's perception on something that just before you made them aware of how special that animal is, they would have just killed it like it was nothing. And I think if we can...
They too are misunderstood.
Sorry?
They too are misunderstood.
They are too are so misunderstood. So if me as a autistic person can make people understand animals or make the unlovable lovable, maybe I am deserving of understanding and love too.
That's very special. And it really resonates with me, obviously, as a mother of a spectrum child. So thank you. So let's talk about how outspoken you are and how you deal, particularly from what I can see is you're quite a sensitive person, how you deal with some of the criticism.
Oh, gosh. So empathy, the mask that everyone else wears. Unfortunately. So how I deal with the criticism, my mind is like a filing cabinet. So I take it as it comes, get angry then, and then suppress it really deep inside of me and file it in the cabinet that I don't want to open ever again. And then once I feel like I can access it, then I'll go and timidly look at that filing cabinet and be like, that wasn't nice. I didn't like it. And put it away. So I just, the criticism, I know I get it a lot and people don't like me. I'm learning to remove the part of me that suppresses that. I'm learning to remove the part that goes, ooh, that hurts. I'm going to pretend like it didn't, so I'm learning to remove that part and be like, that hurt me, but now how can I even help it grow me, instead of use it as hatred or whatever. So I use criticism as fuel to prove them wrong. And
societal norms, tell us about your rejection of them.
In what way? I think the world is misunderstood. This is going to get okay. So I believe that everyone there was a whole ideal of my clothing company, the norm. when I created those T-shirts that I put so Byron wearing. Everybody wants to be different. Okay, this is so sad. This is so sad. Everyone's internal want in life is to be special, to be different. And so they all fit into a category of normal. And I think that is the saddest thing about society, because the actual different person craves so much to be accepted and want to be normal. So they'll do anything to feel normal. But unfortunately, normal will look at them and say, oh, you're weird, blah, 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 like that. I'm different because I like this. No, you're the normal one. The kid you're calling, like, he's the different one. So stop trying to reverse roles. And I think that is the whole thing of that. So, societal norms are completely wrong. How society rears us and grows us is completely wrong. We are born and bred to fit a role that is portrayed by society. And society will grab onto an ideal, a thing that they like, and make it different. And then it just becomes normal again. It's trend, what's trendy, what's new is different, No, it's just absorbing different and making it normal the whole time.
And what does freedom look like to you now?
Freedom to me would be that I don't care what people think or say. And I'm internally not affected. But I can't lie and say that it doesn't internally affect me. So freedom would be the ability to not feel.
Oh, that would be terrible to not feel. Would you say you are a deep feeling person?
I think my feelings run too deep. And that is the problem. So I think that's the problem with most autistic people. We like to use the term neurodivergent. I still don't believe ADHD and autism can exist in the same whole, even though people will show me studies and stuff on it. I believe that there's levels of neurodivergism. One of them being ADHD symptoms, which are also trauma responses. And then the other is you've got your autistic traits on this spectrum. And then the higher you go, you get more traits that are more autistic until you get the nonverbal person that I do believe is the true empath, or the true person that feels everything but has no way to express it. And that's where you get your nonverbal autistic, the kids going like this in the corner. And I think that is the problem with autistic people, is we feel too much. So we build up masks to hide our feelings. But we don't do a very good job of it.
So what I want to understand is, obviously, social media is brutal, really brutal. But you still show up, despite the fact that some of the backlash is lies. You're very popular. But tell me why you lies. Tell me why you choose to show up and you're authentic.
Because social media, I use Instagram as a way to explore my thoughts and ideas. And I know no one on Instagram can hurt me physically for saying things. It's kind of like keyboard warrior in my sense. So I'm able to be myself fully on Instagram. In person, I can't always fully be myself, because I will either get judged, punched, or kicked. So I use it as a way to express or release my feelings and emotions. And if they stop following me for it, or they stop liking my stuff, which is a recent thing, like more I post like more outrageous things with regards to myself, not even animals, the less likes and exposure I get. But I don't care, because I'm just using it as my way of expressing. Ironically, most of my followers came when I posted videos of people thinking I'm going to die, or people thinking that I'm getting really hurt, which just teaches you a lot about society. So like that video that's pinned on my profile, my back, Zigzag, like I show my back and then welcome to my dark side. And you can see all the cuts and bruises all over me from playing with Zigzag. And then it shows Zigzag actually playing with me. people love that because they want to see the pain, they want to see the sore on me, and then they want to see what caused the pain in the hopes. And then they follow me, they press the follow button to see this guy's going to die, and one day we're going to know, so we're going to do it. And that is why they follow. And that is where initiation of most of the followers come from. And that if you want to build traction on Instagram, I've discovered non-educational, purely performative dopamine responses will get you the absolute following. And then once you've got that following, you start posting more educational stuff, but some of them will fall off, but the people that actually are interested will stay. And I think that's the biggest problem. So you've got to create a buzz, and you've got to kill the buzz and see who really cares.
Well, you're doing a great job. I mean, I was obviously researching you for the purpose of this podcast, and saw you being really brave. So I want to talk about being brave, and I'm referring, obviously there is a lot of content about you being brave with animals, which is the focus, but the thing that's really sticking in my mind is watching you deal with your sore thumb. Which I have to admit, obviously as a vet, you would think that, I can deal with all sorts of things. And when it's animals, there is part of my brain that goes into sort of functional mode in order to manage that situation. But when I'm looking at a thumb and I'm thinking about my own, I had to turn away and be like, I can't look at this. So let's talk about being brave. I just want you to know where that question comes from so that you understand the purpose of it. You must get that a lot. You're really brave. You don't have fear. What is it? Explain it to me, because I'm not brave.
I think that's a difficult one. And it makes a lot of sense with something else in my head right now. Sorry. So I think bravery is showing up despite of the outcome, which I just realized now, which is quite profound in my own head with my own situations and personal life going on. But I think bravery is showing up despite the outcome. And people don't want to do that because they're obviously afraid of the outcome. But if you live your life being afraid of the outcome, you'll never know if it could be better or worse. So why not just try it, And obviously it's scary because most of the outcomes I take are death. So I suppose I have to have enough self-hatred or enough self-loathing to be okay with the fact that, okay, I could die and be okay with that outcome. I think that is where bravery would come from, is being okay with the outcome regardless. I'm not saying go into a cage with a tiger because you're most likely going to get hurt or die. I'm saying just look at any situation as just being able to be okay with the outcome regardless of it. And then if you are, then do it, because that's where bravery comes from, is not knowing. It's to explore the unknown.
I think I need to be braver. You're inspiring me to put myself out there a bit. I think it's, that's that preservation thing, and that I think it's possibly, again, a bit of an ego thing. And,
so don't worry, we're all egotistical. It's a human nature to be egotistical.
So we spoke right at the start of our discussion, and I don't know whether it's going to be included, but I don't want my listeners to miss out on the ultimate outcome of your setup at Crocoholics.
Well, it's actually Fauna and Flora Connect. Crocoholics is my little conservation project I'm trying to do on my own.
Okay. All right.
So yeah.
So let's talk about the aim. The aim of that in terms of from an education perspective and what you're hoping to achieve.
So that would be the exact thing of, like, I suppose, me trying to connect. So Fauna and Flora Connect would be the wildlife park. And what I would want to do with that is I want people to come here, get educated, learn about the animals, and walk away a little bit more connected to nature than they did before they came. Because I do believe if you truly connect with something, then you realize that it's worth having in your life. And if you can realize that the ecosystem is worth having and you actually physically connected to it, not just in the sense of I know it's there, I know it's important, but you can learn to connect with it, and understand how important it is. And if it goes away, what the consequences will be. A lot more people spend their life more so interested in conserving or making people more aware of conservation efforts than if they didn't. So it's all in the name there, is to educate and make people aware of what is going on and then connect them to it so that they at least leave here with something in their head. Not just, I saw a cool animal, but they leave here with a purpose. If 50 kids come and only one kid gets inspired, I don't care about the other 49. It was that kid.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're obviously reaching a huge audience with your social media accounts that hopefully will have a big impact for those who can't get to the center worldwide.
Yeah. So I will, there will be another Instagram page dedicated to the Fauna and Flora Connect park, which we will sort out and do once the park is fully open. And then I will be pushing a lot of effort into that to create hype and awareness to it. Yeah, I think that would be the goal, is to share it worldwide, not just with the people that come here, but to at least, if I can't connect you physically, let me try to connect you via Wi-Fi, to nature. So I'd like to do live tours, things like that. But probably the signal in this farm is like the worst
we
thing
are
in the
South
world.
Africa. It's not. It may improve over time. And final parting question for you, because I know you're a very busy man, and I've really appreciated you taking time out of your day to chat to me. What is one message you would give a young autistic child who just is craving connection or just feels disconnected with the world?
It's not the world. You're not disconnected from the world. The world's disconnected from you. So as my mom said to me a lot, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and autism. And then as I got older, schizophrenia, BPD traits, and a lot of other things. And what I've learned is, don't change you, change the world. Don't crave acceptability. Become something that they cannot deny they don't want to accept. So become the thing they want the most. Don't change you, change the world's perception of you. Right? I've got to word this better because it has to be worded better. Make yourself, just to be you so much that the world craves that they wish they could. And then they will naturally want to connect with you.
And for a family of that child, what advice would you give me as the mother of a child who's struggling with that?
Support his interests. Support the child's interests no matter what. Take interest in what he has to say. When he does the pebbling thing, listen. Don't push him away. Don't say that's all you talk about. Don't make his obsessions a bad thing. And if you have a certain thing you want him to try out, try and make it interesting for him. If he likes it, great. If he doesn't like it so much, don't beat him up for it. Just say, we tried that. You didn't like it. It's not your thing. Explore things with him, but not in a judgmental way. Explore it in a way that makes him feel like he's kind of like picking. Show him something and see what he does with it. You might be surprised.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously I think my child's amazing. I think these kids, and I think neurodivergent or whatever you want to term or what you want to label it as, people have superpowers, and that ability to hyper-focus, that ability to take interest in something, and that drive, I admire it, and I nurture it, and I encourage it. So I definitely, I love it. I love it. It's taught me so much as an individual, and I think it's incredible. And to come across people who are putting themselves out there, and I'm really grateful for your time and the opportunity, and thank you for your vulnerability and your honesty in this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode on the Paws Effect Podcast. If you found the discussion helpful, please like, share, and follow our podcast. Don't forget to leave us a comment or review. We love hearing from our listeners. Remember, you can listen to us on your preferred podcast platform. Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Cara.
Hi, Doc. It's Jackson the Jack Rossi here, and boy am I itchy.
Are you on a hypoallergenic diet?
Hyper what now?
Changing to a special diet will really help. And Just for Pets have a massive range. And flea and tick medication, special shampoo.
Ooh, how quick can I get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Get it all to your door.